things, and we're not going to have them this time.
The intro and outro?
Mm-hmm. They're not here anymore.
We're not using them?
Well, I just don't have them. They're not on here, and I think we are actually live. I'm just waiting for Instagram. Yep. We are live. Instagram is just catching up. Okay. Yep, my intro outros are for sure gone, so I will just have to yap until it's over. Hello, everybody. You're catching the beginnings of my, or beginning? I don't know, the end of my chat with Brian. Say hello, Brian.
I was scared, so I muted myself.
Anyway, everyone, welcome to Uncatechized Catholic Podcast, the live show where you stop being such an uncatechized Catholic. Here, we don't just grow in knowledge of the faith, but we learn to let the faith infiltrate and transform our lives so that we might die as saints. Remember that you can watch or listen to previous episodes on YT, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. I am Desirae Sifuentes. We already know Brian is here. And let's begin today's episode with prayer. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Dear Lord, thank you for getting us through and here today, despite the bits of technical difficulties that we have had. Please stay with this podcast. Keep the demons who want to mess with the stream away. Keep our spirits high and let us get some great questions today and allow the answers to not come from me in my mind, but from you, O Lord. In Christ Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Father, Son, Holy Spirit. Amen. So, as I said, today we're doing an AMA. Ask me anything. Preferably Catholic-related questions, but, you know, you can shoot your shot asking me whatever. Can't hurt to try. Before we get into that, though, let us check in. How is your prayer life? How is your scripture reading? Are you doing it? Are you every day? What active edification are you doing? Things like this show, things like other knowledgeable podcasts and books and things. Parents, have you taught your children something today? Did you remind them to tell their guardian angel thank you and I love you? Have you been to confession or adoration this week, or have you been in the last week, or are you going to go this week? Before you go to bed tonight, reflect on how you've cooperated or not with God to be transformed in his image and letting your faith mold you into a better person. So, my current fixation, other than my Gloria Patri coffee, get 10% off with code Uncatechized. Thank you to Gloria Patri Coffee for sponsoring this show, making it possible. My current fixation is actually this book that I am writing. I was telling Brian about it before we went live, and I think this is actually going to become a thing. I started it just because this idea was in my head, and I'm an ADHD person. And so sometimes I get these ideas in my head and they'll just stay there forever unless I let them out somehow. And a lot of times I let them out just so they can die. But this is not dying. And it's actually survived the ADHD lull where I wrote 5 chapters of it many months ago. And then I set it down because life got really, really busy. And then I picked it back up again. And I've written 6 more chapters since then. So I actually think this is it's going to be a thing. I've been doing my research on self-publishing and things like that, so don't be surprised if I keep talking about this book because it is running around my noggin all the time. But this week, what am I reading? This has been a really slow reading week for me. I've been writing more than I've been reading, and probably the only thing that I've read this week are the Psalms. So I suppose what I've been reading this week are the Psalms. And I love the Psalms. They're wonderful. I'm very glad that there are so many of them. So, with that said, that brings us back to the point of the show. Ask me anything. If you have any questions that have been burning your brain lately, anything that you've thought, oh, you know, I'd love to get an answer to that, and then you've just never followed up, or you looked and you couldn't find the answer, I could probably find the answer for you. I actually have my commentary on the Code of Canon Law right next to me. I have my 100-year-old New Catholic Dictionary next to me, and I have the World Wide Web at my fingertips, and I know how to look these things up. I am what is the term? Aficionado? I don't know. I'm good at looking things up and finding answers, even for niche Catholic topics. But I have a few questions loaded up and ready to go. So if nothing rolls in, then I'll just start pulling from these random questions that I have seen. I actually roll around Reddit sometimes, and I will lurk in different subreddits, and I saw some questions getting asked on our Catholicism. So I suppose until somebody shows up with a good question, we'll start with these. The first question was, how do you live and proclaim your Catholic faith in a very non-Catholic environment? And I like this question because I think people feel a lot of pressure to be Catholic, to like boldly live the faith and proclaim the faith. But I think a lot of times that zeal, as wonderful as it is, doesn't really match up to the fact that we live in a fallen world with broken people. And there are times where you absolutely can boldly live your faith, and then there are times where if you boldly live your faith, you'll like get fired or something. So the best, most succinct way to put it is probably that quote that is always attributed to St. Francis of Assisi that he never said, which is to live your faith or what is it? I don't even remember the full quote because he didn't say it, and so I put it out of my mind. But it's something like, live your faith, spread the gospel. That's what it is. Spread the gospel, and if necessary, use words. That's exactly it. I just recently, actually, you can't see it very well, and I can't get it close enough to the camera to show you, but I have two little pendants here. One is a Benedictine medal, and then the other one is Our Lady of Guadalupe. And I've touched them to a bajillion different things. So they're like third-class relics, and I love them very much. But I wear them every single day, and they have become a conversation piece. And even my barista recently started a conversation with me asking about the medals and saying that he had reverted to the faith after having left and all that stuff. So one, say a little prayer for my barista that he sticks to that faith, even though he's got a lot of temptation to leave and not stay with it in this day and age. But it's things like this, like no one can tell you to stop wearing a necklace, and that's not an abrasive, in-your-face way of living your life as a Catholic, but also being patient and gentle and kind and just showing the fruits of the Spirit. And if you don't have them, develop them, become a holier person, gosh darn it. And when people inevitably ask, like, how are you so calm in this? How do you handle such and such? You can answer honestly. They have asked, well, it's God. Well, it's my relationship with my faith, and these are the things that it does. And you just live like that witness in the world. I mean, everybody knows the trope of like ain't no hate like Christian love or something like that. There are a lot of Christians out there who boldly proclaim their faith, but then they don't act like it. And so if your words are not followed by actions, it's just noise anyway. But I have my first question in here from the chat. It's faithful.ada. How to become holy without feeling overwhelmed? Ada, I love this question. And the answer is simple but hard, and it's incrementally. So if you try and look at yourself objectively and think, I have a million things to work on and to change, you're never going to change all of them at once. But what you can do is you can go, what things about me are very unholy, and how do I work on those things? And so the most obvious one would be like if you were in a chronic state, not you, my lovely darling Ada. But if you are in a general state of mortal sin pretty regularly, work on that. Work on getting to a point where you're going to confession habitually because you want the graces of confession, and not because if I don't go and then I'm in trouble, right? You want to be living a life that is better. And so say, okay, that's where I need to go. I need to leave mortal sin and get to a life that's better. And then once you get to a life that's consistently better, because you're not ever fully turning or severing that relationship with God, not fully turning away from him, then you can say, okay, now what is up with me? And maybe you go, maybe I'm a really impatient person, or I swear like a sailor, maybe it's anything. Then you say, okay, I actually need to work on those things. I should not swear that much, and I should be more loving and less grumpy when somebody intrudes on something and letting it get under my skin and bothering me and what have you. So how to become a holier person without feeling overwhelmed incrementally. I see Zelly Dating in the chat. Hello, Zelly Dating. You guys, Zelly Dating is going to change the dating world. I've been seeing a lot of Catholic speed dating and Catholic apps and things like that, but Zelly is a cut above the rest, I have to say. It's not even out yet. You can sign up for their like email, whatever, to become aware. What is the word? To be alerted when it actually hits the App Store. But it is the only app that I'm aware of that you can go from single to married without paying for any premium features. It's truly, truly amazing. So you should go check out Zelly Dating, especially if you're a single Catholic or you want to go recommend it, send their profile to any of your single Catholic friends. My Discord message audio is on. I know it's on. Brian is lecturing me in my Discord chat. He's making my Discord audio play and more. I don't know how to make it not here.
All right, I'm going to jump in. I'm not lecturing anything. I'm just pointing
He's
out.
yelling at me.
Falsely accused of things. That is not true.
He's yelling at me, okay? I cannot confirm that the caps lock is on. But I will say he's yelling at me. Anyway, to our next question. I don't know how to turn it off, Brian. So if you want it off, you have to tell me. Court Rose Gold said, my childhood friend is marrying her partner and she invited me to their wedding. Should I be attending? Okay, so I don't know enough details to give a good answer, like a specific answer. So I'm going to give an overall answer. What does partner mean? Because if partner, you said her, if partner is her, no, you can't go. That's like an automatic no. If your childhood friend is not Catholic and this other person is also not Catholic, this man is not Catholic, you can go. It doesn't go. It's not a thing within the church. If one of them was, baptized Catholic but is not attending, which one? And how close are you to this person? Because if it's like the guy and you're not close to him at all, and she's not, like it won't matter what you say. This person won't know you and she won't really care because it's not her faith. But if it's she was, or they both are, and they've fallen away, you have to assess where you're at on this. I actually did a whole long show with my friend Delilah. It was a couple episodes ago and it's on YouTube. Oops, I said it. I'm not supposed to say it because it gets me in trouble with the other lives. But it's there and on Apple Podcasts and on Spotify. So you can watch it or listen to it. But we did a whole long conversation about how traditionally the church teaches that you don't go. You don't go. But in recent decades, the church has softened that to say you need to use, two females then, yeah, you don't go. You don't go. But yeah, the church has softened it to say you need to use some discernment to that. And the discernment, a lot of people get confused and think that it applies to that situation. It doesn't apply to that situation. It applies to how knowledgeable and culpable these people are and you are and so on and so on. So if you want the big long answer to that, you can go watch that episode and you'll hear both of us talk about our positions, because Delilah is in the firmly I won't go camp and I'm not firmly in that camp. I like the personal discernment, but there are times where like it's just fully not allowed, valid, etc., and 2 females is not allowed, valid, etc. Your attendance at the wedding means something. It means like you affirm what is happening, and you can never affirm that. But in other circumstances, you might still affirm it, even if it's not perfect. My thing that I had with Delilah, I think was like an hour and a half long. But another one that's a lot shorter for anybody else who may be interested. Father Mike did one of his Ascension videos talking about this, and if I could remember the title, I would tell you, but I'm pretty sure it's talked about in that episode or linked in the description to that episode. So if you really, truly want to find it, it is out there. But, so she said, for those who can't see, I will certainly check that podcast out, struggling how to handle it. Yeah, it's not easy. And it's one of those moments where you may have to live your faith in a way that causes friction, even if you don't want it to. But the best way to avoid causing friction in that in this situation is to remember to always speak the truth in love, even if you start to and they get upset with you. Keep it loving, because if you start out nice and then you get mean, it looks like a mask slip situation. It doesn't actually look like what I'm sure your heart actually is, and like where your heart is at and where your intentions are at. Ultimately, people who are not aligned with the Catholic way of thinking, they won't get there if you're just mean. So the best way to do it is to be loving and to only say what you have to say. You know, that's also biblical advice, to not cast pearls before swine, right? Like, she doesn't need probably a whole catechism lesson in like why you can't go. It may be as simple as saying like, I can't make it, I'm sorry, and then leave it at that. And then if she presses, you know, pray and ask the Holy Spirit to put the words in your mouth so that you don't have to do it, because the Holy Spirit will know what she needs to hear. And then at that point, you know, it's out of your hands however she handles it. Sanjess, I'm hoping I'm saying this right, 24, says, how does the church handle someone that hasn't been to confession in years? I'm feeling a call to come back after 20 plus years of being away. I do pray. I just haven't been to church. So, Sanjess, how does the church handle someone that hasn't been to confession in years? She says, please come to confession ASAP right now. Go to confession. There's Confession Finder. It's a website. I think it actually might be part of masstimes.org, ? But there's a whole website where you can find masses and confessions, and I think even adoration according to time and their proximity to you. So you can like put in your city or your zip code or whatever if you're in the United States anyway, and you can find it. So just go to confession. I mean, think about it. 20 years is a long history to go over mentally, to recall. But also, whatever you think about, whatever you maybe you go and you have a wonderful confession and then you think after the fact like, oh, I forgot that. If you would have confessed it, it will be forgiven. But also, if you are tallying up your list of things to say and you feel like this is going to be a long conversation, you can also just call up your parish and say, hey, I haven't been to confession in like 2 decades and I would like to confess, but it's going to take me a while. So can I set up a special time with any priest as soon as possible to knock this out? And they will certainly do that for you. But you should come. For sure, you should come. And you should also go to Mass. You don't receive probably until you go to confession, but go to Mass. Get the graces from attending. The Lord will meet you where you're at. You will certainly get graces for the desire, for the effort, for what have you. But, I mean, just go to confession. That's the amazing thing about confession, is it's always there. And as soon as you want to reestablish that connection with the Lord, you just go and you get it done. So I hope you go. I hope you go really soon. I will pray for you to go very soon. At Orinin CT says, new here. She is seminary/theology professor. Not a professor. I am a lay catechist. I have a degree in theology from Franciscan University. And I've been doing mid-level catechetics for years now. At I'm Super Fett. Is that like Boba Fett, but super fat? Says, what is one thing of advice that you would give for a newer Catholic person? I used to be Protestant, but got motivated to become Catholic. From Emily, aka Catholic Converts. Okay, I love Emily. I was actually just talking with our mutual friend Katie about her earlier today. Katie does the Kerygma Candle Company. Actually, this candle that's lit behind me, Katie made that. So cute. It smells so good. But one piece of advice. So, newer Catholic person. Oh, I wish I knew how new you were. So probably my number one piece of advice is to read the Bible every day and read the Catechism every day as well. And just read it cover to cover. The way that it's, I wish I had mine accessible. Maybe my big one is, yeah, I have my huge one, but I don't want to pull that up. Read it cover to cover. The way that it's written, it's definitely written in, to use collegiate terms, like the first quarter section of the book is like 101 Catholic stuff. So it'll probably be like a review if you've been through OCIA. And then the next is like the 200 stuff. So maybe some new stuff, maybe some things you've heard. And then just gets, higher and higher, 300, 400 level Catholicism. Super awesome. And then it's said in a way that makes it really accessible. And then the catechism also has, the cross-referencing numbers and footnotes. So you want to go deeper and read this encyclical or read this, writing from Justin Martyr, who's my favorite early church father. He's the best. Then you can, and you can follow up and you can go as deep as you want. I would also say make time. If you've read this stuff already, great. Can't hurt to review. Read the Bible every day anyway. But also make time for reading books, and audiobooks count. So you can get Libby on your phone. I have it. Actually, what am I reading on Libby right now? I'll share that because maybe you'll like it. It's a book about the lies about the medieval times, but I can't remember the title of it. Where is my shelf? Notices Libby. Libby. Oh no, it expired. I'll go to my history. Libby. I can't search and talk at the same time. Is the library on your phone? So if you have a library card, you just get it and you plug it into Libby and then you get it. Okay, so it's Diane Moczar, Moczar. It's called 7 Lies About History. It's the title, and then the subtitle is Infamous Myths About the Church's Past and How to Answer Them. So it was a really good book. It was actually my second time reading it. I listened to it the first time, and then I was reading it like ebook style on my phone when I'm putting my baby down for her naps and for her bedtime and stuff like that. But yeah, it's really good. A lot of people think the medieval church was this like weird reversion into like caveman tendencies, and then they just ignored that like Aquinas and a bunch of other incredible thinkers came from that time. But no, the medieval history of the church is not somehow below the Renaissance or anything like that. And that's a really good book, and that's a really good way to edify yourself. Finding books like that, finding books like anything from from Sophia Press, from St. Paul, what is it, Institute? I'm blanking on the name. But yeah, there's a bajillion. Ave Maria Press, there's a bajillion Catholic publishers, and they all make really good books, and you can just find one that you really like. I actually, on my page, you can also go to my like links in bio, and I have a whole Amazon list of books that I like possess and I have read and I enjoy, and they're all like right there. So if you want books that like I actually like, you can go and find my little Amazon list of all of the books that I recommend. So do lots of reading. I really like reading. I'm a big reading person. Let's see. Sanjust24 says, I don't have a parish. I'm looking for one. Thank you. Sanjust! You can just pick any parish to go to confession. You don't need to have a parish. You can just go. But also, I am a fan of Reverent Mass Finder? Something like that. That's my favorite place to find a parish to go to. I'm looking it up. Reverent Mass Finder. Yeah, reverentcatholicmass.com. That's my favorite place to find a mass near you, because churches have different cultures, even within the United States. And I find that I enjoy the ones that are filtered through Reverent Catholic Mass. Yeah, I already forgot the name, reverentcatholicmass.com. But massfinder.org. I'm going to check that one too. O-R-G. Yeah, Mass Finder. Find masses. You can search near me. Find Mass Adoration Confession. All kinds of things on there. Both of them are really great websites. But yeah, you don't have to go to your parish. And some people find it easier to go somewhere where they don't actually intend to spend their life afterward. There's nothing wrong with going to your parish. I go to my parish, but some people they find it comforting to go to priests that they don't have to like look in their eye, and some people find it comforting to go to the priests that they look into their eyes all the time. So totally up to you and what you're comfortable with. Faithful Ada says, I use masstimes.org for all masses near me. Yeah, masstimes.org is every mass, every time, everything. And then the Reverent Mass Finder is filtered for more traditional elements, like Gregorian chant and altar rails and things like that, but also it totally is on your diocese. Some dioceses are not into all of those things, and so not every diocese has anything like that. But As the text says, whoop, where am I? I don't know if this is the same on both. I have to click out. But here, am I pointing to it? Yes, I am. Oh, I can't, depending on how you're watching me, vertical or horizontal, I can't actually point to both. One, I'm underlining one, and now I'm off the screen for the other. But ask me anything. That's what we're doing today. Send in your questions. They can be Catholicism related. They can be just advice. It's fine to take advice. It can be maybe a random question that you want an answer to. I may not have the answer to your question, depending on how out there it is or how outside of my focus here is, but you can ask any question. I do have a pile of questions to pull from while they're coming in. This one said, can I rely on God too much? And the answer may surprise you. The answer is yes, you can rely on God too much. There are times in your life where God is telling you, you need to give this to me and you need to let me handle this. And then there are times in your life where God says, hey, work with me on this. Let's figure it out. I have a plan for you and I want to reveal it to you. And then there are times where God says, you got to do it and you got to make a choice. And the most flippant way to put it is, some people think like I just rely on God in everything, but God's not going to wash your hair or make sure you go to the bathroom. Like, you do have to do some things for yourself, and it doesn't end just with basic care of oneself. It's also life choices and whether you're ready for this, that, or the other thing. Actually, in another Father Mike, what do you call these things? Homily from Ascension, that thing. He said, he was quoting somebody else who said something like, ever since discernment became popular, nobody has ever made a decision. So don't be the person who gets so caught up in my discernment that you stop making decisions. We actually do have to make decisions. And if you have ever prayed and prayed and prayed and prayed and prayed and begged God to reveal something to you and he just wouldn't say yes or no, you know, sometimes he calls you to to make these decisions. Brian is messaging me silly things. Anyway, yeah, so you can rely too much on God. Now, that said, even though you do need to make your own decisions sometimes, he wants you to just make a choice sometimes, you have to be sure that you do run things by the good man upstairs, if you know what I'm saying. It's possible to not rely on him enough. And if you're not collaborating with God on your life, then you might find yourself in some positions that God would not have you in. So find the proper balance. I genuinely, and this is not Catholic teaching, all of everything I said before was, this is just my own take. I also think some of it, like, it's different person to person. I think God made some people to be like hyper independent people. I think I am that person. And God made people to just be like constantly collapsing into his lap. And I don't mean that in like a dramatic sense. I mean that in the like, the life is so intertwined and enmeshed. Like, probably some incredible saints. Therese of Lisieux is coming to mind. People who have these particular vocations where they are just, it's like God is their spouse. I don't know how else to put it. But yeah, it's also different probably person to person. So it's not like you look at one person and go, oh, well, this is how much they rely on God, so that's what I should do. I mean, like, maybe that works for you, but also maybe not. So that is something that you should work out with God and then apply to your life. Be independent when he's asking you to be independent. Make decisions when he's asking you to make decisions. Run things by him, rely on him, and so on and so on. Caro will eat you. Who is that? Says, is Dr. Pepper the most Christian of sodas? Yes or yes? Actually, I choose option 3, and that is heck yes. And heck might actually be the second best choice there. But yeah, Dr. Pepper is the king soda. There's no question about it. I will say, for dinner tonight, I had a Coke from McDonald's. I also had food from McDonald's, but I had a Coke from McDonald's because I just had a hankering for a McDonald's Coke. Marcus A_Z says, Dr. Pepper is proof that God loves us. These are facts. This is the Dr. Pepper love chat. Also, Baby Giraffe 17, aka Brian, says, if you had to have one saint narrate your life, who would it be and why? Probably, if I have to pick one, that might be hard. The first one that comes to mind is St. Hildegard, but also St. Teresa of Avila, but also St. Joan of Arc. Honestly, if I have to pick, probably St. Hildegard, because she's incredible. There's also, I wonder if I can find it in my Libby. I read a book from her. Was it on Libby that I read it? I think it was. I read a book on her that was so good. Faithful Ada won a scholarship from Dr. Pepper, so they are awesome. Yes, they are. And I am so impressed that you won that scholarship, because I'm pretty sure I applied for that scholarship when I was in college and I did not win. I wish I had. Okay, I think I found it. Nope, maybe not. There's a book on Saint Hildegard. You know, I'm just going to search for it. And it's so good. It's a fictionalized, kind of like the Saint Francis one. Hildegard. Is it this one? No. I might have gotten it from the other library, and I'm not signed into that one yet. If I can think of it, I'll put it in the show notes so you can find it after. But yeah, it's like a fictionalized biography, and I think there's a specific term for that, but I can't remember what it is. But yeah, somebody took a real biography of her life, and then they kind of told the story in a fictionalized way as she lived her life, if that makes sense. And like I said, there's one of St. Francis of Assisi that's really, really good too. But I would want St. Hildegard, because she is what I aspire to be. She is firmly a woman, firmly feminine, and she's not trying to be a man. She's being exactly what God made her to be, but at the same time, she's strong and she's fierce, and she shows up. She, in her life, told the Pope what she wanted, and she got it, and that just did not happen. It's in the same vein as oh my gosh, why am I blanking? Joan, I guess. I don't know. I can't think of the example. It's on the tip of my tongue, but I can't remember any of the details. But yeah, like Joan, suiting up and leading an army, or telling the Pope to get out of Avignon and go back to Rome. Like, these things just don't happen, but God calls people to these incredible feats, and not even I don't even know, my words escape me, because it's not like being a boss woman or anything like that. It's just being the fierce woman that God made you to be, like somebody to contend with, somebody to grapple with. There's nothing wrong with the St. Therese of Lisieux little flowers. Love me some little flowers. But that's just not who God made me to be. And so if I had to have a saint read or narrate my life, rather, it would be St. Hildegard, because she'd probably understand me, and I would like to listen to her commentary all the time. Caro called me a heretic for drinking Coke, and I may have to go to confession for it. I don't know. It's just so spicy and so good. But I do have Dr. Pepper and Dr. Pepper Zero in my home. And last I checked, I don't have Coca-Cola in my home. Oh, I may have Coke Zero in my home. So JK, now I have to go to confession again. Ask me anything, people. YouTube. I'm not allowed to say it. Because they get mad at you on these services if you say the other one. So the Y to the T, the I to the G, and the third to last letter of the alphabet. I don't know how else to say that without saying it, but we're on here, we're live, and you can ask me anything you want. I have another question that I had lined up ahead of time. Brian's yelling at me for almost saying it again. How do you charitably explain the faith to fervent but ignorant non-denoms who have had no prior exposure to Catholicism? So that circles back to the question from earlier a little bit of, spread the gospel, and if necessary, use words, whatever. Just live your life. Let your conformity to what the life of a saint looks like be a witness to people like this. But also, I would say that you have to figure out what your in is with some people. With people, I think, sometimes feel like if I just present this thing that really convicted me, or this thing that I found really interesting, that I really liked, that I thought was impressive and incredible and whatever, if I can just tell people these things, then obviously they'll see exactly what I saw and see exactly what I'm saying. and then they'll just be falling over themselves running to the church. And that's not true, unfortunately. For some people, sometimes it is when you meet people who are, you know, I'm just like you, you're just like me, you know, those people. It'll work. But for a lot of other people, it just won't. And you need to find what their in is. So sometimes the in is, yeah, you know, you say miracles, you say transubstantiation, you say Marian apparitions. Like, I don't care. I'm not into that woo-woo stuff. You know, I like history. I like facts. I like science. And then you can be like, oh, well, did you know? And you can hit them with the Catholic history. You can hit them with scientifically verified transubstantiation miracles. You can hit them with all kinds of things that really mean a lot to them. And then, you know, conversely, you might meet somebody who says, I don't care. I mean, like, I'm not a scholar, but I really do feel spiritual. Well, then you can hit them with the charismatic side of the faith, and you can talk to them about all of that stuff. Turn them on to the Exorcist Files podcast, you know, do whatever you do. But always be ready to have a reason to be Catholic and to why you're Catholic specifically, and be a well-rounded Catholic. I mean, that's the whole reason why I went to college and got a degree in theology, was because I wasn't a well-rounded Catholic. I wasn't raised very well catechized, and I was working on it for myself, but I was missing so many pieces of the Catholic puzzle, if you will, that I thought there's no way. I'm not ever going to catch up or get beyond and get to where I want to be unless I do the learning on fast forward getting a degree. So be well-rounded and know where you connect with people and live your life like an authentic Catholic person, and show how your faith changes your life. Actually, going a little bit full circle with what Superfet said, bringing up Emily from Catholic Converts. She had a video recently that was so stinking good. I actually took it and put it on X because she didn't post it on X. And she killed it. It was talking about Catholics who, she stitched it basically. And it was a video of Catholics who were like, shout out to all the Catholics who were not actually really practicing Catholics, but at the same time go and get their ashes or won't eat meat on Fridays during Lent or whatever, right? And so she called out, like, you have to live this life. You have to actually let it transform you, or just leave it, because it creates that disparity and that hypocrisy of, like, you say you're one thing and then I see your life and you're another thing. Like, it cannot be understated how much living a holy and authentically Catholic life matters. Like, this is why the Mormons are so strict with how they appear in public, because they know that your appearances matter. I'm Super Fet again says, what is your favorite vampire movie? Are there any vampire movies other than Twilight? I mean, I really think that's it. I never read, well, that's not true. I tried to read the Twilight books. I read like the first 13 pages and Bella was still whining about Arizona, and I was personally offended as a lifelong Arizonan. So I left. I was like, no thanks to those books. But then they cast Robert Pattinson in the Twilight movies, and as a ever Harry Potter fan, he was Cedric Diggory originally. I had to watch. And so I watched him probably like once a year or once every other year. I put all of them on, and my husband and I will watch them together. XBGARCI. Oh, okay. XB Garcia. I figured it out. XB Garcia X says, is it bad to celebrate Halloween? It's my favorite holiday. I enjoy decorating my home for it, and I enjoy watching scary movies. Well, I'm going to take a guess with the name Garcia in there. If you are from Mexico, it is the standard operating advice in Mexico to say no. But if you're an American, yes. And I'll tell you why. So, the church is global, but within the global church, the universal church, there are cultures. Okay, that's why the church in Africa looks different than the church in the U.S., and so on and so on. The church in Mexico has a much more superstitious and, to be frank, less catechized culture than in the U.S., where we catechesis, I should say, probably ranges depending on a lot of factors, but the church is also a lot more scrupulous, which is the total opposite. Like, the church in the States almost completely forgets that we're priest, prophet, and king, and that means priest, and that means that, like, we actually do have abilities to, you know, do certain things that, not that we are capital P priests, but lowercase p priests, that the church in Mexico would, like, never forget. Also, the church in the States will, like, take communion when they totally should not, and then the church in Mexico would never take communion unless they had been to confession recently. So, different things, right? The real true answer is that it's fine to dress up and go door to door and get candy and to watch scary movies and da-da-da-da. Now, you do have to be careful with the movies that you watch, because the church has also been really super clear that the things that you watch need to be good for your brain. And so if they're like, what do they call it? I can't say the word, I think, because I'll get in trouble. But gore fest type movies, the church would say don't watch that. The movies that are like gratuitously bom chicka wah wah, I don't know how else to say that either. The church would say do not watch that. If it's like a scene and you can skip it or whatever, or worse, if it would just trigger you or entice you to do something not good, altogether skip it. But if it's like a quick scene or whatever and you can skip it and it's fine, that's probably up to your discretion. But the church is, again, really, really clear that what you consume matters and what you do matters. So if you treat Halloween as, you know, I make my front yard look like a graveyard and then say memento mori and then take my kids and we go get candy and then we watch Goosebumps, awesome. Like, have fun on Halloween. There's really nothing wrong with it. But if you are of the mind that Halloween means much beyond that, then it's probably a no. And again, depending on where you're at in the world, your culture may say, hey, yeah, that's all clear, that's great, go for it. Or you may be part of a culture where participating in that entices other people to do other things that they shouldn't be doing. So discernment, where are you at? How are you celebrating it? Those are all things to consider. The true answer is it's fine. It really is fine. But where you're at and what your, you know, your church is advising you to do should supersede anything else, more or less. Laney_bear says, educate us on Catholic parishes having Dia de los Muertos celebrations, please. I live in California and I feel like it's only happening. I don't know if I got cut off, but Dia de los Muertos is great. Like I was just saying, the church is global. You know, Dia de los Muertos, it was, you know, you could say it has some roots that might be like some question marks, but as it is today, it's, you know, if you've ever seen the movie Coco from Disney, like it's that. It's remembering your ancestors and honoring them and praying for them. And all of those things are Catholic things. And then everything else around it is just fun, like sugar skulls and the flowers and whatever. Like, that's all good and fine. But also, you don't have to celebrate it. If you want to, go ahead. It's totally fun. It's a good time. You know, I went to Catholic school and we celebrated it, especially my Spanish teachers. Like, it was awesome. I really loved the celebrations. But also, you don't have to celebrate it if you don't want to. If it's not your culture, if it's not your thing or whatever, you can take it or leave it. I'm super fit says Hufflepuff Squad here. That's bold. I'm, you know, honestly, that is, what's the word I'm looking for? You're brave to admit Hufflepuff. I really don't know what I am. I think I'm Gryffindor. I think I was a lifelong Gryffindor, like forever. But also, depending on the tests you take, I can get either Gryffindor or Ravenclaw. But I took the official Harry Potter one, and I think, like, on Pottermore, and I think that one I got Hufflepuff. But I also just wouldn't be surprised if I took it twice and got both results, you know? ADT826, what do you think about IVF? What I think about IVF aligns with what the church says about IVF, which is that you cannot do it. If you're having fertility struggles, you should go see a NAPRO provider, doctor, trained individual, and get the support that you need there. And that people who were born or conceived, I guess, with IVF, they are still people. You know, God still created their souls and they are full members of the church and all of that stuff. But IVF also comes with, unfortunately, a lot of death and a lot of suspension of life and a lot of like really dark practices, and it completely is at odds with theology of the body. So for many, many reasons, IVF is a no-go, but fertility struggles are very, very hard and heavy. And, you know, I can't imagine truly being in that position and having to go through the waiting and the time. And so I understand the temptation, and I know it's very hard. You really can't say that much beyond without getting a little bit too dark about just what a heavy cross and a heavy burden it really is. But I understand all of it. All I can say is give the difficult parts to God and have him, you know, walk with you and carry you when you don't feel like doing it anymore. Liam McBride 737 says Ireland is similar even today. There are lots of practices from pre-Christianity. In November we have All Souls traditions. We believe food out for returning family members. Yeah, I think that's actually part of Dia de los Muertos too. Is like they'll put out food offerings and whatever. And like, yeah, they're obviously not going to eat it. You know, it's just like I don't know. It's a sense of community, I guess I would say like that. At least that's how I interpret it. But yeah, it's like, you know, you leave your shoes out for St. Nicholas to put stuff in overnight. Like, we know what's actually happening, you know. I'm not going to say anything beyond that but I'm Super Fet says, I just know in the Conjuring universe, if something goes wrong, we run to the Catholics to save the day. That holy water is real. Yes, it is. I have gotten some interesting stories from people about holy water and blessed salt bringing out different attitudes in people. Lainey Bear says, what about making an ofrenda, an altar for the dead? Yeah, I mean, again, it is intention, right? And it's purpose. So same with Halloween. Dia de los Muertos is the same as Halloween. How you celebrate it matters. If you're basically making like an altar for offerings or sacrifices or I don't even know what to like communicate with somebody who has died, that is not the like church sanctioned Dia de los Muertos. That's like saying Halloween, going door to door and getting candy versus like going to a graveyard at 3 a.m. and lighting candles and bringing a Ouija board. Like they're two completely different ways to celebrate, quote unquote, the same thing, and one is valid and one is not. You can pervert just about any act or any holiday or any tradition or anything. You know, even just eating food. You can eat a normal amount of food or you can stuff your face and make yourself really sick. One is normal and one is a sin. Like, you have to celebrate these things in line with what the church prescribes and says, like, these are the boundaries, live within it and enjoy your freedom, and step outside of it and become, you know, a slave to the things that you open yourself up to. So Ari.yogi says, Indonesia here. Indonesian Catholics sometimes still hire rain shaman. Yeah, that's not good. That should not happen. But it's not unique to Indonesia. You know, in Mexico, they have the brujeria? I don't know if I'm saying that right. But they have their witches. And in the U.S., there's been like a resurgence in people embracing witchcraft and all kinds of things that are not great. So it's not unique to Indonesia. The expression is probably more unique country to country, but it's all the same. You know, it all comes back to the same group of fallen things. Okay, another one that I had loaded up here. Again, ask me anything. There's no limit. If you've already asked one question and you think you've used up your token, no, you can just send them in and it's all good. But one that I have loaded up here says what to get an almost Catholic for his birthday. I thought this one was like a fun, lighter one. But I do want to also say that it's okay to give normal gifts for people. Like, this is a birthday gift. You can just, I don't know, get him some sick kicks from the store or something. If it were for baptism, confirmation, whatever, then, you know, maybe that really beautiful leather-bound Word on Fire Gospels. That's what I want. That's what I want. But yeah, it's okay to like embrace normal world stuff. If that person were like a Marvel fan, you can get them a Marvel related gift. If they were a Star Wars fan, you can get them a Star Wars gift even for Christmas, you know. Maybe balance it if you really want to. Throw in like my favorite gifts are actually, I have one friend, Ariadna. She, for one of my last birthdays, gave me a bag of books, and I think most of them, if not all of them, were Catholic books, except for maybe one. But they were like Catholic books or books on saints or whatever. And then she threw in like prayer cards and stuff like that. So you can also just give a whatever you want gift and throw in some prayer cards, and poof, it's Catholic. Okay. Ornin CT said, how'd you earn a degree in 1 year? Says 24 to 25. Are you looking at my LinkedIn? So I didn't earn it in 1 year. I will give you my very long and sordid college history. So I graduated high school in 2011, and then I went straight to community college, and I was planning on getting my associates and then, you know, going probably to Arizona State or something. But I did a year there, and then I got married and moved away. And where I moved was where my husband was stationed. He was in Hawaii. And when I went to continue my education in Hawaii, because back then online degrees were only just beginning to become a thing, and the degrees that I was pursuing were not online. But the community college education system in Hawaii was like 3 times as expensive as it was here. And I think it was here in Arizona. And I think it was actually technically like 6 times as expensive because it was out of state tuition as well. So I don't know. It was just like insanely expensive. And also the community college that I went to, at least at the time, was one of the best community colleges like in the country. It was a really, really good education, even if it was a community college. But the same could not be said for where I was looking in Hawaii. So I was like, I'm not going to pay so much more to get like a lower education. And it's also just like a huge hassle to sign up and not even really be happy with what you're getting anyway. So I was like, I will just wait. Like, we will get restationed at some point, or he'll get out or whatever, and then I'll go back. Fast forward some years, and I was like, yeah, I definitely need to get a theology degree, and I'm going to pursue that. And so I did. Arizona State at the time had a partnership with another college that I won't name, and it was the deal was if you get a degree at ASU, you can get a secondary degree with this other college. And long story short, this other college just wasted my time. They were doing away with this part of the program where you could get a theology degree. So then I had a year of getting these other credits with ASU, like waiting for this other college to get back to me. They never did. And so then, and it was really hard also. I looked at Franciscan to see if they had an online theology degree, and they did not. And like nowhere else offered a bachelor's in theology in person or online, and you had to go in person. And so I paused again and was like, where do I go from here? And then at this point we had moved back to Arizona, and Benedictine University had a satellite campus up the street from my house. So divine providence. I went there and did my degrees there, but long story short, they messed up some of my transfer credits. And it was a whole problem. And then the school couldn't really resolve it. So I paused again. And then I looked at Franciscan's website again, and they still didn't offer an online 4-year theology degree. So I was like, this stinks. I don't know what I'm going to do. And then I was just kind of perusing all, because I had filtered for online degrees with Franciscan. So, oh my gosh, I'm going to mute this. I was looking at all the degrees, and I was scrolling down. I'm like, wow, they offer all these awesome degrees at Franciscan. And then they had theology, and then theology-online. And I was like, what the heck? Do they actually offer this online or not? So I called them up, and I said, hi, question, do you guys have a 4-year theology degree online, like for your bachelor's? And the gentleman I spoke to said, yeah, we sure do. And I was like, well, how long have you had this? And he was like, a really long time. And I said, well, are you aware that if you filter for online degrees on the website, it doesn't show up? And I just hear like on the keyboard, and he goes, oh my gosh, I'm going to have to tell somebody about this. And I was like, yeah, I looked for this degree years ago, wasn't there. I looked for it again today, wasn't there. But it is in fact offered. So I think I'm going to go apply now. Bye. Got off the phone. And I went and applied. And Franciscan is amazing because I was 70% of the way done with my degree by the time I applied there. And most schools, when you transfer, want you to do half of your credits there. And I wanted to finish my degree. So I would do what I would have to do, but also it would super stink if I had to redo a lot of my credits. But fortunately, they accepted basically all of my credits. And the one class that I had to redo was a joy to redo. So I did a 12 credit summer and an 18 credit fall and a 19 credit spring so that I could graduate in one calendar year. So I was a full-time college student for a full calendar year in order to finish my degree. But let's see. Lainey Bear says, I'm sorry. Maybe I need to pray about this. I can't understand. This confuses the faithful. The only altar should be made for God. Thank you for answering my question. Pray for me. So yeah, maybe you do. Maybe it's also, you know, I think you're getting hung up on the word altar, and maybe you can look at it as almost like capital A altar and lowercase a altar, because you know, you can have altars in your home. You can have, I mean, altar is ultimately a table, right? So maybe you call it's called an ofrenda is what it is. It's not like actually an altar. So maybe you say capital A altar is the altar for God, and a lowercase a altar would be like an ofrenda or something. But yeah, I would not say it confuses the faithful. It might be confusing for you. It may just be where you're at in your journey, but there are very many intelligent, faithful Catholics, especially in Mexico, who partake in Dia de los Muertos, and there's nothing confusing about their faith, and they're not in any kind of trouble. So if you don't want to partake in it, or it's not like a side of Catholicism that you want to embrace, you're totally free to do that. And if somebody else wants to embrace that part of their faith or their heritage or their culture, that's also totally fine as well, as long as they stay within the bounds, whether it's Dia de los Muertos or Halloween or whatever. Mendozi says, I'm considering joining a Lutheran church because I'm not ready to jump into the Catholic Church. Thoughts? I mean, I wouldn't, because I love the Catholic Church. But I guess I would have to ask you why. Like, what is the point of switching? Like, where would you be coming from? Are you non-denom? Are you fully outside of church? And I don't know. Where are you at? If you don't want to give more details, then I can just, summarize it to say that you can go to Catholic churches and not be a Catholic. Like, you can attend Mass and not be Catholic. You can't receive communion, but you can go. You can also attend OCIA, the class that you have to take to become Catholic, and you can make it clear, I'm attending just because I want to learn and not because I actually intend to become a Catholic at the end of this. And that is allowed. You're allowed to just attend and go. So maybe you're, I'm not ready to jump into the Catholic Church. Maybe that comes from not having enough knowledge. Maybe it comes from a place of uncomfortability. I know a lot of people who have it here, but they were also raised in households that told them the Catholic Church was the Antichrist. And so they physically have a visceral uncomfortability with the church, and they just need to go and see the goodness in order to kind of overcome that. So I don't know where you're at. The catechumen says baptism saves, but what does that mean? Okay, that's Brayden, and this is not even a joke, Brayden. When I was doing my research, quote unquote, for this, I have some questions loaded up for my AMA just in case it was a slow chat. And somebody said something about baptism. And so when I was putting my questions in here, I said, baptism saves, but what does that mean? That is an amazing rap that Brayden put together last year, and he filmed a lot of it at the Catholic Creator Conference, which, if you're a Catholic creator, you can also go to and check it out. And you can say that I told you to come if you decide to go. But the music video, I'm in the music video for like 3 seconds. It's awesome. I love it. And you can go watch it. It's on YouTube. Okay, where I got lost in my little list here. Okay. SD Frankel says suggestions for books to give to someone in the process of considering converting to Catholicism. So, Marcus AZ says a sword. He wants a sword. This is true. But, so I have a whole list. I said this earlier, so if this is a repeat for you, my apologies. But my link in bio area, somewhere in there, I have Amazon, and you can click on my Amazon, and it'll show you I think they call it like a storefront. And I have just lists of things, and one of them is Catholic books, and everything in there is something that I really like, and, it has my stamp of approval. However, I focus on mid-level catechetics. So for someone who's in the process of considering converting, some or a lot, really a lot of those things, maybe too much, maybe too heavy. The best text to give to somebody who's converting is going to be one that it's literally staring me in the face, so I'm going to go grab it. It's going to be one that meets them where they're at and tells them things that they're interested in, like Why We're Catholic from Trent Horn. Catholic Answers publishes this, and I think it's literally their #1 bestseller of all time. And they keep trying to like whip Trent into making another phenomenal book like this. As he says, like, I only have one great one in the tank, guys. All of Trent's books are phenomenal, but this one is hugely successful. It's hugely successful not because it's better than anything else Trent does. Trent writes really amazing books, but because of what it is. So I'm just opened to, this is, I don't know what you call it, chapter 5, section 5, whatever. It says why we believe God conquers evil. And he talks about, what is evil, the heart of the problem, meant for more, God's love amid Nazi horror. And then he goes over like, key points. Why we believe God conquers evil, because evil is an absence of good. A good being can allow evil to exist if he uses that evil to bring about greater goods, and objective good and evil only makes sense if there is an objective moral law that comes from a perfect lawgiver or God. And then it's even got parts and sections. So that was part 1, and this is part 2, Jesus in the Bible. So a book like this is great because it's honestly, it's pretty thick. 200 pages maybe. Yeah, about 200, a little bit more than 200. But it's pretty thick, but it's not that bad. Like, they can pick this up and put this down. They can read it for 5 minutes before bed, and it's not going to feel overwhelming because everything is sliced up so thin. And there's another one, I think it's upstairs in my room, but it's a Jimmy Akin book, and it's something like, it's like 365 apologist answers +1 or something. So like the idea was that you read like one a day every day, and there's an extra one if it's a leap year or whatever. But it's a similar thing, but it's like the objection is up top, and then it's a full page, sometimes a little bit more, response to that thing. And so things like that with that layout are really, really good. But if they're a person of beauty and they want things that are like beautiful and high quality, anything from Word on Fire, especially like the devotionals, or the shorter books. I think Bishop Barron just made the book, This Is My Body. And that's also like a big bestseller. So yeah, there's a lot, but I would lean more toward like maybe what you would call lighter fare, or like something that isn't necessarily made for Catholics, but made for somebody who might be Catholic curious, because even if they're in the process, are quite warm or whatever, there's probably a lot of, I'm not used to this. Also, Scott Hahn made one with his wife. What is it called? Somebody's going to know the name of this book. Rome Sweet Home. That's it. Rome Sweet Home. The story of Dr. Scott Hahn and his wife converting from their Protestantism, and like it goes over the process of how that happened. All of these are really good ideas. Okay. Brian, why is Instagram crashing again at the 1 hour mark? Like, we have to figure this out. Okay, if you're on Instagram, sorry gato, kitty cats, you just got kicked out. I'm going to finish the questions that are in here, and then I guess we'll call it, and we have to figure out what the heck this issue is with Instagram. Oh well. Also, book recs for 7-8-year-old boys for catechesis that will keep their attention and interest. The Action Bible. It looks like a comic book. That's it. And maybe the UCAT. I wish I had the UCAT on my desk. I put it away. It's a bright yellow book. It's super cute. It's super cool. I've talked about it in previous episodes. So that's what I recommend for that. For S.T. Frankel. Dominic Bowie 3413 says, what is your most favorite hymn and why? Also in reverse, what is your most disliked hymn and why? My most favorite hymn is probably Come Thou Fount. I sang it in choir in high school, and it's one of those that just gives me goosebumps every time. I love it so much. And I don't know if I have a most disliked hymn. Probably any hymn that is like heretical accidentally. I don't know. Faithful.Ada said, I applied to the University of St. Thomas Houston, Masters of Fine Arts in Catholic Poetry, but got denied admittance. Do you think it's worth applying again, or should I look elsewhere? I guess it would depend if they told you why they denied your admittance. If it's something that you can't change, then look elsewhere. If it's something that you can change, like I know a lot of these programs, you have to like take tests before, you know, you get in, and then they look at the scores of those tests. Like maybe you can test higher, do it again, and then that would be a good move. But fine arts and Catholic poetry, I wish I knew off the top of my head more schools that offered that degree, but I don't, so I can't even really tell you where else to look. But I can tell you that I really love Franciscan, and they have a lot of online programs, and I think the Augustine Institute also has a lot of online programs, but I don't know if that works. But if you're also like in St. Thomas Houston, if that's Houston, yeah, I think there's also like the JP2 Institute out there, and I don't know what they offer, but options. Joyoibo1222 says, okay, so I can ask you anything that is respectful. Sure. I mean, if it's disrespectful, I guess you can still ask. I'll just probably ignore it. At Oren and CT says, what is the church sanctioned Halloween? So something like going door to door and collecting candy with your kids, like dressing up in fun, appropriate, but fun costumes. You know, the church would not be thrilled if you were dressing up, you know, in scantily clad outfits, for example, or anything that would be antithetical to your faith. You know, there are some very offensive Catholic sorry, I just saw the next question. Catholic costumes out there that are not appropriate, that you should not wear. That would be inappropriate. Or if you're like what was the term I used earlier? Gore. What is it? I don't know what it is, but something that's like super, super gory. And, you know, you're just bathing your mind in like violence and blood and like mistreating human beings. That would be against church teaching. So that would not be an acceptable celebration of Halloween. If you like, I don't know, use a Ouija board, not an acceptable celebration of Halloween. Outside of watching mild scary movies, or like really scary movies. Nefarious is really scary, but there's nothing gory about it at all, and it's actually super in line with Catholic teaching. You could go to a cemetery if you wanted to, especially if you go with the intent of praying for the dead. You know, we actually do that a lot, not even on Halloween, but just like all the time, because in Indiana, the cemeteries are everywhere. In Arizona, it's such a master planned community in Phoenix that they're really hidden away and you just don't see them, but they're everywhere. So we're like always, you know, blessing ourselves when we drive by cemeteries, or like going just to see who is there, offer prayers for them, look them up, whatever. But yeah, you can, anything that is Halloween-y, think about it in like a Catholic way, and then you're good. But the question that I laughed at from Joyoibo1222 says, are you a ginger? I guess that depends on who you ask. I say I'm not a ginger, but I've been told I am one a bunch of times. I think in lower lighting, and my studio is lower lighting, I think it looks kind of gingery, but it's not. If you know what hair glaze is, I think maybe if I glaze my hair with like a redhead glaze, I would be super, super redhead looking, but I'm not. My dad is blonde, like dark blonde. My mom is ginger. And so my mom's always going to be depositing that ginger gene into any babies she has. So I obviously have that. And I have a warmer blonde. It's like dad has like a, I don't know, browner blonde than I do. But I have very warm blonde. I have multiple redheaded children because my husband's mom is also a redhead. So it's just warm. But in lower lighting, it looks redhead-y. I used to work at a brewery restaurant thing, and they had super low lighting. And I would be waiting tables or hawking beer or whatever, and people would make comments about me being a redhead, and I was just like, okay. At Oren in CT says, where is that written? Where can I find the church sanctioned ways to celebrate Halloween? I'm not sure if there's anything, maybe from the USCCB. Let me see. USCCB Halloween. But you can look up. So this is another episode I did. It might have been the episode before this. I don't know. I did an episode on the levels of church teaching and the necessary amounts of assent that you have to give to certain things. So something like, oh, well, that's, you know, where is that in the catechism or whatever? It doesn't have to be in the catechism to be something that the church teaches or put forward. some other nuggets, I guess, to pull from that episode if you don't go and watch the whole thing, is that the church prefers to handle things at the lowest levels possible. So if it needs the Pope to comment on it, the Pope will comment on it. But if it can be settled by the cardinals or the bishops or by the local parishes, that is how the church prefers to handle things. So what you will find bountifully on the internet are tons of priests talking about how to celebrate or not Halloween. You'll find lots of Hispanic priests, like Mexican priests, saying don't do it. You'll find a lot of exorcist priests saying don't do it. Or maybe, I don't know if a lot of exorcist priests say don't do it for Halloween. They say things like don't do it for Harry Potter. But to that, I would say exorcist priests see the worst of the worst. And so they're responding to what they're steeped in all day, every day. And if I had to take a wild guess, a lot of American exorcist priests have a lot of issues where somebody as a kid or their kid was exposed to Harry Potter and they knew Harry Potter better than they knew the Bible. And then that caused problems. So you can't have these improperly ordered relationships with things, whether it's Harry Potter or gambling or, I don't know, what are those really popular shows that people watch? The Walking Dead. If you spend more time watching The Walking Dead than you spend like working on your faith, that's a problem. And you couldn't be surprised if things happen because you're spending more time on things like that than on your faith. But I'm going back to my search on, okay, Catholic Answers has like a bajillion articles. Board on Fire says it's time for Catholics to embrace Halloween, which Board on Fire is Bishop Barron's thing. I don't even know, organization. I don't know what you would call it. Vatican News has the Catholic roots of Halloween, Vigil of All Saints Day. I don't know that website, so I'm not going to recommend them. Who is this? The Father Leo Show has 2 videos that are popping up, and I've not seen these videos, but I've seen Father Leo stuff, and I really like his stuff. Yeah, there's a ton. If you just, I literally just Googled USCCB Halloween, and I'm not even looking at the AI stuff, but that is what it pulled up. I haven't even read this article either, but the CatholicCompany.com, I see it says A Catholic's Guide to Halloween, and just the blurb says the short answer is that the true substance of Halloween belongs to the Catholic Church. Halloween belongs to the Catholic Church. It's ours. And what I see is any violence, gore, sensuality, or demonism now commonly associated, and then it goes ... That's probably saying no to those things. That's what I would guess. Let's see where we're at. Okay, let me get back to my questions. Okay, I am super fet says, can we agree that the only vampire movie that competes with Twilight is Morbius? I will defer to your superior knowledge on that because I don't watch those movies. I'm kind of lame that way. I don't know why. The way that I am, if it's like too far not based in reality, I can't get into it. Like the fact that I got into Harry Potter as a kid was shocking because I don't care. I don't care about that stuff like at all. I'm not into it. I never got into, Star Wars I also liked, but my dad like jammed that down my throat. So other than that, like I never got into Star Trek. I never got into Lord of the Rings until I became an adult. Then my husband and I watched that not that long ago actually. And I really liked it. I did. But it was just not something that drew me in. Same with Twilight. I tried, couldn't do it. Daniel Pacelli says hello. I'm actually about to wrap. We have been on here for over an hour. We've gotten lots and lots of questions. I still have more of these that are like loaded up in the tank, but maybe I'll just save them for next time. And that will be that for today. Know of my prayers for you, everyone. And also know that I need your prayers. You know what? Actually, yeah, please don't click out yet. I need your prayers. My family in the last 14 months has been sick enough for like the next decade. Everyone in my family, but particularly me. I've had bronchitis twice, pneumonia once, COVID, countless stomach bugs, countless flus, countless colds. Like I swear the amount of sickness is insane. So please pray that we're just done being sick for a long, long time because it really throws me off of my work. And, the work that I do is for the Lord. So I would really like to just feel like I'm being productive and doing a really good job and not committed to my bed for like a week out of every month. That'd be amazing. Or dealing with somebody, another child who's committed to a bed or a bathroom for a week out of every month. That'd be great. So please pray for me and know that I'm praying for you. And we are in this awkward outro moment where I have to sit here and chat for like 15 seconds until the delay in the live catches up. Because I made these really cute intro outro things to play to like eat into this time, and they disappeared. So now I have to go figure out where they went and add them back into my streaming software. So next time it'll be back. It was here last episode. It'll be here next episode. But in the meantime, I'm praying for you. And I love you, my brothers and sisters in Christ. Thank you for joining me for this awesome AMA and sending in all your questions. And the next time I have a sick week and I can't prepare anything for the show, I'll see you again and take all these questions again.